Welcome to the Moving Children to Good Health webinar. This workshop is the third in a training series geared for early childhood providers on promoting healthy habits among children from birth through age 5. Today's training is meant to provide you with an overview of physical activity for young kids. My name is Emily Cooke, and I'm the Early Childhood Program Manager for Let's Go, a program of the Barbara Bush Children's Hospital. My goal is that by the end of this workshop, you'll be able to describe why getting plenty of active play is so important for young children, explain the components of a childcare environment that help children adopt active living habits, describe the role of childcare staff in helping children develop active lifestyles, and provide a variety of ideas for use in the classroom to help children develop physically active behaviors. While it's common to hear about how physical activity is central to reaching and maintaining a healthy weight, when we consider why physical activity is important for young children in particular, it's about much more than just maintaining a healthy weight. Movement is essential for young kids to develop, learn, and grow properly. One of Let's Go's priority strategies is to provide opportunities for children to get physical activity every day. We don't have to be exercise specialists to support and provide opportunities for age-appropriate activity for the children in our care. As a participant in the 5210 Goes to Childcare program, you have an excellent resource available to you in the Activities Ring, which came with your toolkit. The Activities Ring is broken down by age group and provides a variety of fun and creative ways we can get our children moving towards a healthier weight. The exercises can be used as quick activities to help at transition times, or can be made into longer exercises that are incorporated into curriculums. I'll also share some other resources that you can use in helping to get the children in your program moving at the end of the presentation. Before we jump in, let's briefly review the call to action that fuels our efforts to make these changes. As was taught in the Supersizing Our Children webinar, obesity among both adults and children is on the rise and has been for a while now. We have many more children classifying with obesity today than we did just a few short decades ago, including among our youngest children. Unfortunately, without serious environmental changes and support to learn healthy habits right now, many of these children will grow up to be at an unhealthy weight when they're adults too. Children with obesity are at higher risk than children at a healthy weight for many physical and even mental health problems. There are many contributing factors to carrying too much weight, one of which is lack of activity that we'll discuss today. Children and people in general are less active today for lots of different reasons. Children specifically have fewer opportunities for active play and are watching more TV and other electronic media devices. Keep in mind the 2 and 1 messages of 5210. We want to aim for 2 hours or less of screen time each day with no screen time under the age of 2 and at least 1 hour of physical activity. My last reminder is that as a childcare provider, you are a very important player in keeping children healthy. Did you know that more than 60% of children age 5 and under are in some type of regular childcare arrangement? About half of these kids are in organized facilities or family childcare programs. The average amount of time spent in childcare is 33 hours each week. Research has shown us that, unfortunately, children are not as active as we think they are during all these hours they spend in childcare. In fact, numerous reports have indicated that children spend between 70 and nearly 90% of their time in childcare either sitting or lying down. It seems that children may only spend about 2 to 3% of their time actually being moderately or vigorously active. Now, of course, each childcare program has different characteristics that determine how well the environment promotes kids being active, and some do a better job than others. For example, we know that sites who provide a quality play environment have staff members that role model physical activity and that implement policies around both TV viewing and outdoor play are doing a better job at helping to promote the type of movement that can help kids reach their full potential. My goal today is to teach you about these strategies and more you can begin to implement to be one of the programs providing both a healthy and a fun environment for children. Let's make sure we all have the same understanding of what physical activity is before we dive into specific recommendations. Technically, physical activity is any bodily movement that works your muscles and burns more energy than just sitting. So walking from your car into work is actually physical activity. Technically, typing is even physical activity, but don't get too excited yet. There are different intensities of physical activity, meaning how hard you have to work to do the activity. Clearly, typing is not high intensity. The 1 message of 5210 refers to at least 1 hour or more of moderate to vigorous physical activity each day. Moderate intensity activity is defined as movement that gets your heart beating fast and makes you breathe harder. At this level, you're still able to hold a conversation, just maybe not sing your favorite song. For most people, this includes things like brisk walking, riding a bike on level terrain, or mowing the lawn. Vigorous intensity activity, on the other hand, are things that are more challenging to an individual and really make your heart beat hard and your breathing get fast. At this level of movement, you can't even really hold a conversation because you only have enough breath to talk in short phrases. You're also probably getting quite sweaty. Things like running, biking uphill, and high-impact aerobics are examples of vigorous activity. Keep in mind, everyone is starting at a different level of physical fitness, including children. Activities that are moderate intensity for one person or child may be vigorous for another, and vice versa. It all depends on your previous experience with exercise and your current level of fitness. These types of activities are the kinds you want to get at least 1 hour of each day because they have big health benefits. This said, every little bit counts. You and the children in your care can reach 1 daily hour of physical activity by doing 10-minute spurts several times throughout the day. To achieve the daily goal, add purposeful movement activities into your curriculum, use movement to transition kids from one activity to another, or use bursts of activity to recaptivate the children's attention. Many of us who hear the term physical activity automatically go, ugh, exercise. But for kids, physical activity is just play. Many things children consider fun, such as riding a bike, playing tag, swimming, climbing, and tumbling, are considered moderate to vigorous physical activities. Children learn through active play. They're not only developing their muscles and gross motor skills, but they're also developing their socio-emotional and cognitive skills. This means that getting adequate amounts of physical activity not only affect a child's long-term ability to be physically capable, but also to be mentally and socially capable. This can have really big ramifications in their adult life. Later in the presentation, we'll be covering in more detail why it's important for children to experience both structured or caregiver-led physical activity and also unstructured or child-led physical activity. Between birth and age 5, there's clearly an amazing amount of growth and development that occurs. Depending on a child's age, there are certain types of play that are appropriate to facilitate development. To understand a child's appropriate level of play, we need to understand how movement actually helps their brain develop. Our brain is separated into motor and thinking regions. As adults, the two parts of our brain work automatically together. But as children, this isn't the case because their brain is still developing, especially the language areas. For example, as adults, things like throwing and skipping are easy because our brains have built a memory of the movement with our muscles. Yet children are still building this messaging system between their body and their brain. Not only are young children's different brain regions figuring out how to work together, but their brain is still figuring out how to get their body to easily do what it wants. During the first few years of life, children are learning fundamental gross motor skills and need plenty of opportunities to practice these skills. One very important movement children need to do is cross the midline of their body. This type of movement helps with reading and cognitive ability. This is why crawling is considered such an important milestone for children to achieve. When working with preschoolers, you can replicate this movement by clapping high to the alternating sides of your body or by marching and tapping your hand on the opposite knee. Because children are still developing the body-brain relationship, they need to experience movements like these over and over and over again. The brain is literally trained through repetitive movement. So, as the children are jumping, crawling, and tumbling through the obstacle course you set up again, the movements they're making are not just helping them build muscle and have a healthy heart. The movement is actually helping them cognitively and socially develop and learn. Let's dig into the meat of what kinds of movements you want to be helping your children make, depending on their age. When you're planning your day's activities, consider these motor skills and how you can incorporate activities that help children in your care work on developing them. You would expect a 6-month-old to have developed good head control, be able to purposefully roll from tummy to back, and sometimes even back to tummy, be starting to sit unassisted, and also be reaching and grabbing at everything, possibly driving you as their caretaker a little nutty some of the time. The second half of the first year, infants become very mobile. They should definitely be sitting unassisted. Also, they'll begin crawling or scooting on their bum, pulling themselves to a standing position, cruising along furniture, possibly even walking by the end of the first year. They should also now be able to fling or roll all those items they were previously just grabbing onto or passing between their hands. This means lots of fun, repeatedly picking up things for you each day. As an infant becomes a toddler approaching 2 years old, they're definitely becoming more independent and are finally starting to physically be capable to do all the things they've been wanting to. Children are now able to walk alone, going not only forward, but also experimenting with different ways to walk, like on their toes and backwards. They're probably trying to carry the entire bucket of toys in their arms, and they're also beginning to pull toys behind them. They should be walking up and down stairs with some assistance, and now also climbing up and down from furniture on their own. They'll be able to kick objects and be starting to run. This is a really fun time with kids. As children enter their third year, they're now easily and confidently walking, although they may still be a bit funny looking when they run. They're probably climbing stairs with alternating feet while holding onto the rail. They're jumping down off of short objects, but they're probably not really successful in jumping up onto or over objects yet. They're definitely having improved coordination, being able to cycle their legs to move a trike forward and pump their legs to get a swing moving. Still talking about 3-year-old children here, they're probably bumping into things as they forget to watch where they're going. They're also now effectively throwing things, hopefully just things they're allowed to be, and working to balance on one foot at a time. Children this age definitely are trying to keep up with older kids, but they don't quite have the endurance to yet. So they'll need periodic rests, and they're likely still needing that nap in the afternoon to avoid becoming overtired. Appropriate gross motor milestones for 4-year-olds, including running easily and with good coordination, and these kids are also starting to skip, but probably unevenly. They're able to balance on a single foot for several seconds, and they're beginning to be able to balance on narrower surfaces. A 4-year-old's climbing and jumping skills are dramatically improving, including their timing. These skills enable them to be able to play games that require quick reactions like jump rope, toss, tag, and the like. While a 4-year-old is certainly more aware of their limitations and is showing greater judgment skills, they still need supervision to keep them safe in certain activities, like if they're climbing up to a really tall height. 4-year-olds have higher levels of energy that are sustained for longer periods of time, so be sure to have water and healthy snacks available to help them replenish. They'll also tend to become overly excited when they're in groups and not be able to self-regulate their behavior as well. This is something to keep in mind during both free and structured activities. The last group we're going to cover are 5-year-olds. At this age, children are beginning to develop much more complex movements and are starting to sequence movements together. So, for example, a 5-year-old may be able to run and then jump in one fluid motion or throw and run at the same time. At this age, children are able to walk backwards, run and skip with agility and speed, and they're now getting good at jumping up onto and over things, as well as jumping down from much higher levels. They can hop and jump rope well. It's really important to remember when working with children of all ages that they do not learn these developmental milestones at the same pace. Children will adapt and learn at different rates. How quickly a child progresses through different milestones depends on a variety of factors, some of which include rate of growth, how active they are outside of childcare when they're with their parents or other caretakers, and even their genetics. Now that we have an understanding of the types of movements we want to promote among children of different ages, let's talk about the specific physical activity guidelines for each age group. As we go through these, keep in mind that adults ultimately control where and how children under age 5 spend their time. The variety, frequency, and intensity of children's movements depend upon what kind of activities they're offered and where. As a result, their motor development, energy expenditure, and body weight are all affected too. I'm just going to list off the recommendations for each age right now, and then we'll dive in deeper to understand how to practically meet each guideline in a little while. Infants specifically rely entirely on their caregivers for opportunities to be active. Tummy time is crucial to a child developing proper gross motor skills and strength. Always do tummy time with an awake infant, beginning with 3 to 5 minute increments and increasing the amount of time as the infant shows he or she enjoys the activity. Aim to reach 30 minutes a day with children who are not yet creeping and crawling on their own. Some ways to encourage infants to enjoy tummy time include placing yourself or a toy just out of the infant's reach to get him to reach for you or the toy, or placing toys in a circle around the infant so they're working to get objects to the right or to the left. Reaching to different points, both out front and to the sides, will help the infant to develop the appropriate muscles to roll over, scoot, and crawl. For more ideas on tummy time, refer to the 5210 in the first year booklet that came in your toolkit. There are no guidelines on the total amount of time infants should be outside each day, just that they should be taken outside 2 to 3 times per day and be set down, given the opportunity to explore. Remember to reduce sedentary time too. Infants should not be in equipment that restricts movement, like molded seats, exercisers, or swings, for prolonged periods of time. Limit an infant's use of these items to 15 minutes or less per session for no more than 1 to 2 times per day. Toddlers ages 1 through 2 years old should be provided with at least 60 to 90 minutes of active play each day while they're at childcare. This 60 to 90 minutes includes at least 30 minutes of structured, caregiver-led physical activity and at least 60 minutes of unstructured, child-led physical activity. Also, the gold standard is to get the children outdoors 2 or more times during the program day for a total of 60 minutes or more of outdoor playtime. This is also part of the total 60 to 90 minutes of overall daily activity. As mentioned before, these amounts can be accumulated throughout the day. So leading kids in an active game of Simon Says for 5 or 10 minutes, and then having everyone flap their wings, swooping and flying their way around the playground like their favorite type of bird for another 5 minutes all count. For toddlers, limiting sedentary time means not requiring them to do seated activities for longer than 15 minutes at a time unless they're eating or napping, and minimizing the use of confining equipment like strollers and car seats to 20 minutes per day while the children are awake. For preschoolers, the recommendation is a total of 2 hours or more of active play each day. This includes at least 60 minutes and up to several hours of free play and at least 60 minutes of structured caregiver-led active play. Additionally, the goal for getting outside is the same as it is for toddlers. Bring the children outdoors at least twice each day for a minimum of 60 minutes total. The recommendations for sedentary time is also the same as it is for toddlers. Decrease sedentary time at your childcare facility by not keeping children seated for more than 15 minutes unless they're eating or napping. To summarize what we just learned, first, it's important to consider not only the amount of time children spend moving their bodies in active play, but also to think about how much time children are spending in sedentary behaviors or being inactive. You want to make sure your children receive numerous opportunities to be vigorously active throughout the program day. These opportunities should include both structured or caregiver-led activities and unstructured or child-led play. Also, the daily recommended amounts can be met through both indoor and outdoor playtime. For indoor play, make your ultimate goal to have an indoor play area where children are free to run around and do all types of movement. Outdoor play is specifically important and should be provided daily. We'll cover more about exactly why in a few minutes. However, if poor weather conditions lead you to curtail the total time outdoors, be sure and increase the time for indoor activity so that total exercise time remains the same. Lastly, limit sedentary time as much as possible. Yes, children need to rest, but sitting for long periods of time is not good for them. As you plan your program days, keep in mind that some of the children in your care may leave your program and not even get any more time to be active due to a very busy family schedule. Having play equipment available to help you meet these recommendations is really important. Research supports that providing specifically portable play equipment, like the items you see listed here, is particularly effective at increasing young children's physical activity levels. To encourage infants to move, have age-appropriate portable play equipment like rattles, mobiles, baby-safe mirrors, balls, little dolls, and cause and effect toys. Toddler-appropriate equipment include balls, beanbags, large blocks, riding toys, tunnels, low climbing structures, and rocking boats or horses. And for preschoolers, have things like tricycles, balls, yoga mats, rocking boats and horses, hopscotch mats, and items to make obstacle courses like hoops and cones. Now let's move into the specifics of structured versus unstructured activity. Structured physical activities are led by teachers or parents where the adult helps facilitate the children's movement skills. When adults lead children in these types of activities, children tend to reach higher levels of movement intensity, so they're more often getting to a moderate or vigorous level of activity. And it allows the caregiver to target working on specific age-appropriate motor skills. Structured activity should be designed so all young children are active participants. Teachers should provide sufficient equipment so children can fully participate. Keep in mind, this equipment can be homemade and doesn't have to be expensive or store-bought. Teachers should not utilize or design games where children have to passively sit, listen, or wait their turn to complete the activity or are eliminated from play. Instead, caregivers should choose games where there can be enough equipment for all children to participate at the same time. Also, they should modify elimination games so that children are immediately given the opportunity to re-enter the game. It's through structured activities parents and teachers can really help children develop the movement skills that are the building blocks for more complex movement tasks as they grow older. For example, when you teach children new skills like skipping and hopping, This will eventually lead to skills like galloping and running and jumping with speed and agility. To incorporate structured activity into your program day, set aside scheduled chunks of time to be active with planned activities to do. Aim to schedule a few 10 to 15 minute structured physical activity breaks each day to help teach children how to move. Some examples of structured activities you may want to include are follow the leader, an obstacle course, group yoga, parachute games, setting up movement stations with balls, bats, beanbags, scoops, and kicking and throwing targets like hula hoops, dancing with scarves, playing something like Get the Wiggles Out or musical chairs, or simply just going on a walk through the neighborhood or to some local trails. In comparison, unstructured activity should be child-led movement, where the child directs his or her own activity and play. This kind of play is typically very sporadic with a lot of stop and start activity. Unstructured activity time allows children to explore their environment, be creative, and use their imagination. Examples of unstructured play are children riding tricycles or other ride-on toys, a game of tag, climbing, or other similar things. Sadly, 75% of pediatricians are reporting that unstructured playtime for children has decreased, and nearly 100% of pediatricians are reporting that time in front of electronic media like TV and computers is replacing that free playtime. If you viewed the Childhood Obesity Epidemic webinar, remember that excess TV time in particular can be detrimental to children's health. This is not good news. We need to restore the balance of movement to our children's lives. When children are given the space and opportunity to move, they do. As we've covered in other webinars, the health benefits of getting plenty of physical activity are far-reaching, particularly for children. Getting enough activity not only helps adults avoid chronic disease like heart disease and diabetes, but children also. Clearly, movement helps to build muscles and burn calories, which contribute to both reaching and maintaining a healthy weight. Research has also shown that physical activity causes children to perform better in school, have improved attention, as well as focus and behavior. Getting adequate physical activity may help kids make better health and lifestyle choices over the long term, as evidence suggests that physical activity habits learned early in life during these first 5 years track into adolescence and then adulthood. This supports the importance of children learning lifelong healthy physical activity habits while they're in your care at their early care and education program. Time spent outdoors seems to play a particularly important role in health and well-being. Research has consistently shown that young children are more active outdoors than indoors. One study found the time preschoolers spent inside, only 1% was spent in moderate to vigorous physical activity, compared to 17% of time spent outdoors. According to Swedish childcare experts, there's not bad weather, just bad clothes. In fact, the National Health and Safety Performance Standards from Caring for Our Children recommend that children be brought outside as long as the temperature, including any wind chill factor, is above 15 degrees Fahrenheit and below 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, of course, you need to take proper precautions, such as making sure children are dressed properly for the weather. On a rainy day, have parents bring in raincoats, boots, and umbrellas. On a snowy day, kids need boots, a warm coat, hat and mittens, and always think layers. If it's hot and sunny, children need to wear sunscreen when they go out and play. As often as possible, allow children to play outside. There are some factors that have been shown to increase the level of intensity of children's play when they're outside. This includes having more space available to play in, having adequate portable playground equipment like balls and wheeled toys, and interestingly, having less fixed equipment. Also important seems to be having natural components like trees and shrubbery. So how does your play space match up to these recommendations? Do you have an opportunity to make any improvement? Many people have looked at the health benefits specifically of outdoor play over the years. There's an obvious benefit of increased movement and therefore physical fitness when children play outdoors. Did you know that research suggests that children who get plenty of outdoor play tend to have reduced stress levels, better concentration, and even better vision? Outdoor play has also been associated with more creativity, stronger immune systems, and better behavior. When you're outside, you don't always have to stay in the yard. Consider taking your children on different types of walks. There are many different ideas you could try. Some examples are search for life walks. Focus on finding life in the air, on the ground, in a stream, and so on. Look for evidence of life as well, like nests, animal tracks, droppings, tree holds, and burrows. You could go on a clean the environment walk. Focus on cleaning up nature. Take along trash bags as well as plastic gloves for each child. But avoid focusing on pollution until children can possess a clear understanding of what's natural versus not natural. Also, sensory walks, where you focus on the senses. Ask children, what do you see, hear, smell, or feel? There are theme walks, where you focus on a particular theme, such as a certain color, looking for shadows, seeds, birds, footprints, or discoveries under rocks. Lastly, try a weather walk. Focus on the type of weather occurring at the time. Notice changes in the weather, such as yesterday was sunny and warm, today is cloudy and wet. Try walking against the wind and note what that feels like. Watch a storm coming, or catch raindrops on the tongue. How about when you're inside? How can you make sure kids are getting plenty of physical activity each day? There are two sides to physical activity. The first is increasing movement, and the second is decreasing sedentary time. To increase movement, plan activities each day that teach new gross motor skills such as skipping, balancing, jumping, and walking backwards. Some examples of how you can do this are by taping hula hoops to the wall to make a throwing target, using cones and empty boxes as kicking targets. Have a newspaper snowball fight in your classroom or common room. You could turn on some music and have everyone create a unique dance move for the class to try, then attempt to put them all together and have a dance party. It's really important to be purposeful about joining the children in play. When you do this, you're not just having fun with the kids and enhancing their play experience. When you play with them, it's actually helping them to become more active, and more importantly, you're role modeling healthy habits. Remember to take into consideration the developmental capabilities we reviewed earlier. It's not appropriate to try and teach toddlers or preschoolers the rules to soccer or basketball. They simply won't understand. When it comes to decreasing time spent sitting, consider what activities you do on a daily basis and ask yourself which ones could movement be added to. For example, you could easily incorporate movement activities into circle time. One example of an activity is called calendar play. This is where you would create some large paper dice that have different activities written out on each side. Have the children take turns rolling the dice, and then everyone does the activity it lands on as many times as whatever day of the month it is. You could also work to create lessons that involve children moving around instead of just sitting and listening. Try limiting table toy activities, instead creating activity centers throughout your program. In one corner, you could have a box of scarves where children can dance. In another corner, have yoga or activity mats with pictures of poses the kids can imitate. These types of movement stations are really great to use as a reward for kids. Finally, instead of using the TV to entertain children on days where the weather is not safe to take them outside, get kids up and active by creating an indoor obstacle course that the children need to crawl, jump, run, roll, and hop through. Listed on this slide and the next slide are some examples of how you could incorporate movement into your curriculum. So for art, you could ask children to create a picture, and then they have to act out their picture for the class. For music, use different movements for different types of music. You could get up and dance and do dramatic play to the music, or dance up and down to the pitch of the music, or interpreting the words and doing whatever the words tell you to do. For math, you could have the children use their bodies to demonstrate concepts like high and low, big and little, wide and narrow. Have the children count while balancing on one leg or doing arm circles, or count steps or hops to get from one place to another. If you're working on language arts, act out the stories, poems, and words that kids are reading and learning about, such as slither, crawl, under, over, pounce, and stomp. What ways besides these have you had success in including movement into your lesson plans? There's an interesting quote worth pondering that says, humans learn 10% of what they read, 20% of what they hear, 30% of what they see, 50% of what they see and hear, 70% of what is discussed, 80% of what is experienced, and 95% of what you actively teach. I don't know about you, but I think that 95% of what we actively teach is probably what we should be striving for. Both fixed and portable equipment can make the environment more stimulating. Provide a structure that encourages children to go over, under, around, and through, something that children can climb on, jump from, leap up for, run around, peek under, and other activities that we can't even imagine. Then add in portable equipment such as balls, hoops, and wheeled toys. Providing both varieties of equipment will encourage children to play in many different ways. However, as I mentioned earlier, evidence does support that portable equipment seems to be more effective in getting children to be moderately to vigorously active. So if you have very limited funds, take this into consideration. Safety rules for playground equipment can be confusing. If you have any questions about specific safety regulations, please consult your child care health consultant. On days when active play can't occur outside, create an indoor space by moving things around that enables children to move around freely and be active in lots of different ways. Since children who experience school grounds with diverse natural settings are more physically active, more aware of nutrition, more civil to one another, and more creative, consider how you may be able to spruce up your outdoor play area with nature. Creating a garden on your playground helps children to learn and care about the environment. And a nice little added bonus is that it attracts butterflies and other interesting insects that intrigue children. Trees that offer color, pine cones, or fruit can offer things to look forward to during seasons and can also be used as a learning experience. Trees and shrubbery also provide something to run around, hide behind, and provide shade in your play area. Kids with disabilities and other special needs, such as asthma, tend to get less exercise and do less physical activity than kids without special needs. Yet they have similar physical activity needs as the other children in order to stay healthy. While childcare programs cannot necessarily provide the same activities to all children, there certainly can be simple modifications made to your current curriculum to accommodate children with special needs. This might take a little extra effort, but seeing children succeed, gain confidence, and smile at their achievements will certainly be worth it. Consider what any child you serve with special needs can do. For example, wheelchair-bound kids who have upper body movement can throw, bounce, and receive a ball or other object. For children with ADHD and difficulty concentrating, play listening and moving games where they need to follow very specific directions like run around the tree 3 times. This helps them to move and learn while having fun. Better yet, join them in running around the tree. Try and match up a non-handicapped child with a child with physical limitations so they can play different roles in an activity. For example, one child throws while another child can run. For many children with special needs, it's important that they see someone else doing the activity. This is another reason why it's important that we model healthy behaviors and get involved in the classroom activities. Screen time is sedentary behavior that we want to limit. Children are spending too much time in front of TV, and this is clearly a widely known fact. TV, however, is not the only screen we want to pay attention to. One of Let's Go's priority strategies is to limit recreational screen time. Screen time includes any time spent watching shows or videos, whether it be on TV or via the internet, or playing games on a screen. Screens can include televisions, desktops, laptops, or tablet computers, or even smartphones. Screen time does not include teachers using ebooks or tablet computers to read children's stories, using smart boards for interactive instruction, or connecting with families through Skype or other video conferencing programs. Childcare settings are places where educational and developmental activities should occur. TV and videos contribute very little to a child's well-being and are considered not to be beneficial at all for children under age 2. Not only does screen time tend to be a very low-energy activity because children don't tend to move when watching, but also seeing ads for food and drinks encourages us to eat and drink even when we're not hungry. And eating when we aren't hungry can lead to weight gain. It can be tempting to use TV or videos to keep the kids entertained, for example, when you're trying to prepare a snack or lunch, doing some necessary cleanup, or when you just need a break. But children today typically already watch excessive amounts of screen time at home, so anything you can do to limit its use at childcare is good. The gold standard is to limit total screen time at childcare to 30 minutes or less per week, and then working with parents to help them limit to no more than 1 to 2 hours each day when the kids are at home. It's best to keep TVs turned off at childcare, or used only occasionally for educational programs and only for children ages 2 and older. When you keep use to a minimum, you help children develop their creativity and not passivity. According to the National Association for Education for Young Children, a computer is a tool just like a book, a pencil, or a television. Computers can be used in developmentally appropriate ways beneficial to children, and like any other tool, they can also be misused. It's important to set limits on how long each child can spend on the computer and how often it's available throughout the day. Aim for the best practice standard of limiting computer time to no more than 15 minutes per day per child. And make sure only age-appropriate educational software is available and children are being supervised and shown how to use the computer. Not all children may have access to a computer at home, so use the opportunity while they're in your care to teach them how to use all the various components of the computer. During any kind of screen time, whether it be TV, computer, or videos, join children as often as possible and talk with them about what they're seeing or doing. When you engage with kids around what they're learning via electronic media, you greatly increase the educational benefit of the activity for them. Why the recommendation of no screen time for children under the age of 2? Well, not only is there no educational benefit for kids from electronic media before age 2, but research shows that it can even be harmful for these young children. For example, for children between 8 and 16 months old, every hour of viewing baby DVDs or videos has been associated with 6 to 8 fewer words learned when compared to children that did not watch videos. For toddlers, each additional hour of TV per day has been shown to relate to decreased classroom engagement and a higher body mass index. And for slightly older children, more hours of TV viewing at 3 years of age was associated with decreased cognitive test scores at 6 years of age. There's no question that children learn best through interactive play with caregivers and through exploration of their environment. Learning this way allows children to develop strong, loving relationships with their parents and caregivers, develop muscles to support their bodies, facilitate movement, and prevent overweight, develop interaction with other children and adults to build language and social skills, and develop imagination and creativity through unstructured play. In the many hours children spend with their caregivers each week, they're watching them carefully and will often model their behavior. Children look to adults to help them understand what normal behavior is. So whether you want to be or not, you are a role model for the children in your care. No one is perfect, but we can all aim to set a good example. One way to do this is to play with the children on the playground by joining in their activity. You can further stimulate their activity by offering ideas that encourages them to move. Try bringing in concepts like near and far or fast and slow, or set up an obstacle course for kids to crawl or ride tricycles through. Not only are teachers who play with the children modeling healthy, active behavior, but you're getting some physical activity for yourself. Visual and verbal support for physical activity is just as important as being active with the kids. You can show support for children's physical activity by hanging posters or reading books that encourage children to be active. Also, ask questions and give encouragement by smiling and making positive comments like, "Johnny, it looks like you really enjoy what you're doing," to the children while they're playing. Have you ever used physical activity as a form of behavior modification? You may have done this in either a positive or a negative fashion over your career. Let's talk about how this fits with promoting a healthy lifestyle. We want to teach our children physical activity is not just something that's important for good health, but is also fun. When we work with young kids between birth and age 5, this is actually the main message we want to communicate. This is not the message that gets sent when physical activity is used as a form of punishment, or in other words, as a form of negative behavior modification. This sends the message that physical activity is a chore, doesn't make you feel good, and is not fun. This is clearly not the message we want to be giving. So what does it look like to use physical activity as punishment? It might be done by withholding physical activity for poor behavior, like keeping a child inside when everyone else gets to go out and play, or requiring a child to sit out from a fun movement game. It could also take the form of forcing a child to do some sort of physical activity as punishment. For example, forcing a child to do jumping jacks or run around the yard because they didn't listen. Or it could be threatening a child with having to do some sort of physical activity or losing their physical activity time, and then, if the child has good behavior, removing the threat. All of these practices are inappropriate. The other side of behavior modification is using physical activity as a reward or as positive reinforcement. This is a good idea. This sends the message that physical activity is desirable, fun, and makes you feel good. This also ties into the Let's Go priority strategy of provide non-food rewards. So, for example, rather than junk food, use physical activity to celebrate special events. When you do this, it provides children with the opportunity to not only move, but socialize with peers, all in a fun atmosphere. You could try providing extra physical activity opportunities, like extra playtime outside or inside in one of the kids' favorite games, or in an obstacle course, or at one of the movement stations you've set up for good behavior. Try using a sticker chart for each classroom, and when the class reaches a certain number of stickers, they win a dance party or a field trip to a local park or walking trail. It takes everyone together to support positive behaviors in our children, and having a consistent message that children hear and hopefully see in action, both at childcare and at home, exponentially increases the chances that they'll adopt the behaviors. One of the benefits of participating with 5210 Goes to Childcare is that the 5210 message is used across multiple sectors. This means that children and their families are hearing the same message that you're sharing at the pediatrician's office and the older sibling's school, as well as other places throughout the community. One effective way you can encourage consistent messages at home and at childcare is to provide both parent and staff education. Staff training opportunities can help program staff improve their skills and abilities in providing the best physical activity opportunities for children in their care. And although parents are the ultimate resource for supporting and modeling good health behaviors, proper training can motivate staff to want to assist and guide children toward healthy physical activity habits. Other ways providers can help children and families adopt healthy behaviors is to put up posters, share the day's activities, send home materials from your toolkit, and share your policies so that parents can understand and support these important activities when they're at home with their children. Today's webinar is a great start towards staff education. Having a physical activity policy to support all the environmental changes and activities you're doing can help you sustain the work. It's helpful both to the staff and to the parents to have a written and posted policy regarding physical activity at the facility. Written policies keep staff focused on a plan, maintain a sense of direction for the facility, and confirm with parents that you're supportive of physical activity practices for their children. There are example policies in the resources section of your toolkit that you can adapt as appropriate for your program. Let's try and sum up all that we've talked about. First, understanding what's appropriate for a child's level of play and gross motor development will ensure you're including age-appropriate activities into each program day. Set reasonable limits on behavior, which includes not using or restricting physical activity as punishment, but instead providing additional active play opportunities as a reward. For example, instead of putting a child in timeout, use a time in. Sit down with the child and discuss what the child did that was wrong. Allow them to comfort themselves with a favorite toy, book, or physical activity, and then bring them back into whatever other activity the group is doing. Also, let outdoor time be children's free time, and make sure that they're safe, but allow them to expend their energy and work on developing new skills. Childcare professionals create early impressions of what is appropriate in eating and activity. Make sure you're providing opportunities for children to be physically active every single day by creating an active play environment in your classroom and incorporating purposeful movement activities into your daily lesson plan. Limit the time children spend sitting when they're in your care. Do this by keeping screen time to a minimum with no screen time under the age of 2, and also by limiting the use of confining equipment. Although all parents may not understand the importance of healthy eating and appropriate physical activity, encourage them through a variety of means, such as newsletters, posters, center policies, posted schedules, and special events to promote physical activity at home. As we'll learn more about in the webinar on engaging parents, children who have active parents and families that do regular physical activities together are more likely to be active than kids who do not come from an active home life. Lastly, be a positive role model. Allow children to see you playing and being physically active as well. This is probably the most effective thing you can do to help kids adopt active habits for life. Some final tips on having a safe and successful childcare program that includes lots of movement are to make sure that the activities are age-appropriate and aim to include variety each day and week. Don't forget to have scheduled water breaks, and try and make water available for self-serve both inside and outside. Adapt games as necessary, and also adapt to the environment that you're playing in. And of course, have fun. Here are some resources you can access that will provide guidelines and specific ideas and activities for your daily classroom plan. If you take some time to explore the websites, you can also click through to a whole bunch more of resources than what I have listed here. A couple of points as you're going to these websites. First, for the National Association for Sport and Physical Education, when you get to the website, select Teaching Tools under Publications and Resources. For the Sesame Street Healthy Habits for Life Toolkit, Go to the website and enter this name into the search function. Click on the first listing that comes up, and the toolkit is available for download as you scroll down the page on the left-hand side. And then for PE Central, go to the website and select Preschool under the Lessons tab at the top of the page. To wrap up your learning experience today, please take some time to reflect and write down 3 goals or changes that you'd like to make in your classroom relating to the information we've talked about. Choose one or any combination of the Let's Go priority strategies I've mentioned. These were provide opportunities for children to get physical activity every day, limit recreational screen time, and provide non-food rewards. Be sure and make your goals practical, realistic, and things that you're really willing to change. Then post your goals in your program or classroom as a reminder of what you're working towards. Thank you for joining me today for this webinar on physical activity for young children. This presentation is worth 1 training contact hour for licensed providers in the state of Maine. To obtain your certificate of completion, please click on the survey link underneath this video and complete the short post test. Once you complete the test, you'll be automatically redirected to a printable certificate for your records. Remember, there are more webinars available, each of which is worth 1 contact hour for Maine providers. Each of these webinars is meant to provide a deeper understanding of its respective topic to better enable you to execute your action plan. Aim to complete all 5. Thanks for listening, and now let's go.